vehicles pitching downrange.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Welcome, Gonky. Hello. Happy Veterans Day to you.
Yeah. Happy Veterans Day to you.
And we've got a special guest today, businessman, I guess, commercial astronaut, which is the coolest thing. And we've never had an astronaut on the show, so it's really cool. But Mr. Jared ROOK Isaacman, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you taking out of your busy schedule to come talk to us.
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks for thinking of me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and it was cool because when I messaged you, you're like, hey, wait for me to get back from space. And I was like, I don't think I've ever talked to anybody that's like, hey, sir, are you back from space yet? Because, you know, we've got this podcast with a couple people that watch. So we really appreciate you coming on. And we've also got Doug. Doug, welcome back. Thanks for joining us as always.
Gentlemen.
But sir, right into it, you know, one of the things we talk about is mostly aviation, and you've got kind of the coolest story of kind of making your own way. How'd you get in aviation?
Yeah, I'm lucky as hell. And by the way, very cool, like intro video made me want to go fly. So
did it make you want to go back? Cause I found that and I'm like, oh, it's going to be a cool countdown. And then they did the count, like two different people are doing a countdown. So it kind of like 10, 9, and then the next 10, 9.
I actually just meant the T-38 flying. I was like, just
oh.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
That's awesome. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super lucky. I've had like a very unusual aviation career that's kind of paralleled my day job. And, I mean, really just in kindergarten, I wanted to be an astronaut. And, you know, I checked out like picture books of the space shuttle and told my kindergarten teacher I wanted to be an astronaut. And then like, you know, you get somewhat realistic, but, I watched movies like Top Gun and The Right Stuff and Space Camp. And I was like, you know what, being a pilot is going to be, you know, pretty cool. Like that's, it's probably as good as it's going to get. And, built my first computer to play, you know, Falcon 3.0.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. The correct jet, Gonky. Yeah.
Debatable.
Yeah. He's a Viper guy, Gonky.
Always a Viper. Went to Aviation Challenge, which is kind of part of Space Camp when I was 12 or 13. And then just started flying as soon as I could and never stopped. And it wound up being like a whole parallel career of air show flying and record flights. And then, you know, we started an ad air business called Draken. So that was pretty cool. I still remember it was probably like 2015 at our company Christmas party, right after we got our first, you know, government contract. I was like, look, commercial space is probably the coolest thing out there. And this is long before I ever thought I'd have an opportunity at this. The second coolest thing is to be professional bad guys, paid to fight every day, the Air Force, the Navy, the Marine Corps. So anyway, it's been a cool journey, for the last 20 some odd years.
Was any of your family in aviation before you, or are they, did they influence you at all?
No, I like the pilots in my family or anyone in that field just was always a kind of a passion since I was a kid.
Wow.
I think my parents, like, they just put me in front of the TV. Like that was the entertainment. I just watched movies and I was like, man, this is cool.
I don't feel so bad now. I do that to my kids.
So how far along into because you started at a young age with your business and kind of growing that, at what point did you say, hey, I want to go get my pilot's license and start pursuing aviation just as either a passion or as a career even?
Yeah. So I started my company when I was 16 and it was when I was 20 that I was kind of like waking up on my keyboard, because it's like long before I had a family or kids. Like, so your only responsibility in life is not screwing up your business. And I was like, man, I'm burning myself out here. I need something else in my life. So, so it was 21 years ago that I started flying, and I just didn't stop.
Wow. Did you ever think, I mean, when you first started flying, obviously it's just something that you want to do for yourself, but like at what point were you like, man, I'd like to I'd like to take this further than just me being a pilot and flying myself around?
So, I mean, kind of pretty quick, like I knew I wanted to fly jets, and then there was always kind of the next challenge. So, once I started building up jet time and going to like, Oshkosh and realized, oh, wow, people can own, ex-military aircraft. I'm definitely down for this. And, so I think 2008, I got an L-39 and then a T-33. And then, I think in 2009, I started flying the Collings Foundation A4 Skyhawk, and that was like my first air show exposure because I took it to Oshkosh for like a Vietnam heritage flight with an F4, and and then I was like was totally digging formation flying and the idea of just get a bunch of jets and put a paint job on them. I really did formation aerobatics. So that's kind of how it all, but it was, I was always trying to think of like, what was the next, best challenge.
So your demo team was before Draken, right? That's what actually got you that direction. Like, so it was all L-39s at first?
We had 5 L-39s and 2 MiG-17s. So it was a 7 ship. And, pretty much everyone who flew on the team was a co-founder of Draken, and we just knew at some point, the odds would catch up with us, like every formation jet team. And we're having the time of our lives. There's got to be some way to kind of pivot this into something that, actually has some real commercial value. Like it's a service that people want that we'll get paid for, and maybe like we can keep the fun factor up, but maybe not 10 feet off the deck. So that's how Draken came to be. It was, we just needed the fleet. Like ATAC already existed at this point. So, and they were doing a great job supporting the Navy for, at least 20 years, 15 years. So we wanted to differentiate. So the game plan was quantity. We needed lots of aircraft that could be like, supportable, sustainable, but also like credible. Like we had to have a way that we could be more than metal in the sky. And that was kind of what led us towards our whole acquisition strategy of just gobbling up fleets across the world. And that's how Draken came to be. Demo team was first. Long
so
answer.
No, that's perfect. We like long answers on this show. Yeah. The training for you, because, for us, we go through all the military T6 basic and stuff like that. But for you, the civilian world is a totally different animal. How did you get trained to the point that you were comfortable doing that? And, with a demo team, and then even in Draken, did you get trained to be Red Air?
Well, I mean, we would fight all the time. But I only flew on contract like 3 or 4 times. But I kind of get to that. But I was just lucky to be surrounded by amazing pilots. So I had a couple thousand hours before I ever started flying L-39s or T-33s and then A4s. So like I had a lot of jet time by the time we got to it. And then, I mean, I was with some of the best pilots in the world, like, Snort Snodgrass, and guys like Slick and Stroker coming right off the Thunderbirds. Jive, he was flying air shows with Snort. So, I mean, I really had some of the best, not just like, air show demo pilots in the world, but like some of the best fighter pilots too. So I got to just kind of immerse myself in that world for a long time. And it was like, that was part of the challenge. I mean, being able to fly the jets is great, but being able to, fly it really well and, have the respect of your teammates was really, really important.
Yeah. Did you get a lot of pushback from your business side? Because now, you're well established and they're like, hey boss, we can't lose you here. You're doing a lot of risky stuff.
Right.
We really don't think you should be doing air shows, but it's your call.
Well, so my day job was a private company at that point, so I could do what I wanted. Okay. It wasn't until I went public, really. I mean, we had some outside capital in like 2017, I guess. But I mean, this was always part of the package. So you gotta part of the deal. So
they know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
How did you decide for the jets? Once you were doing the air show stuff, like how did you decide what jets you wanted to buy and moving forward? Because like now you have a MiG-29, right? So how did you decide what to get?
Yeah, I mean, look, in the pure warbird world, which was all, that we were looking at for airshow flying, you don't really have much in the way of choices. There's L-39s and there's some MiG-17s, and that's really it in quantity. There's a couple of one-offs or whatnot. It wasn't until Draken where, now you actually, you're putting capital to work with the idea that you're going to get it back. Like, you're going to create an awesome service and people are going to pay you for it. And now, you can really go anywhere in the world and see what's available. And that was like one of our true, core competencies. Like, we had a database like you wouldn't believe on every fleet in the world, and when it was being retired, and if we thought when it was going to be retired, we could still operate it. Because generally speaking, countries know that whatever they buy next is going to cost a hell of a lot more than whatever they had before. So they literally fly the airframes and the engines to zero, like zero time left. Like they're at their peak fatigue life. So it's very hard to get fleets that are safe, sustainable, and still credible. So you had to like constantly knock on doors. We had like pretty much wired in with every defense attaché in the world, like when countries were gonna, sunset their fleet. So that we could be a little bit, more selective, but in the end, there's only so much out there, that kind of fit the bill.
Was the State Department kind of a roadblock? I'm not going to say a roadblock, but was that a challenge too? Like import, export, ITAR laws and stuff like that, the export control stuff of getting jets in country and suitable for what you were doing?
Yeah. So the funny thing on how this all works is, first of all, anything that's in the boneyard dies there. So that'll never go like, and there's never been a case of it, of anything like with real horsepower. Like there's old, like OV-10 Broncos or something maybe got out. Some old trainers.
Tomcats. We want Tomcats. We need to have Tomcats.
Bring it back.
Me too. I'd love to take a Tomcat on the circuit. But bottom line is, like, if it's a jet in the boneyard, it dies there. The only time it'll ever come out is when it's literally, part of our like, building relationships with foreign countries. Like we'll regen some F-16, send it with the idea that now they're stuck with us for a while. But generally speaking, it dies in the boneyard. So you're buying overseas, and if it has any U.S. origin hardware in it at all, or licensed, it has to go through the State Department. It's PMR SAT, and their going in standard is deny. They don't want responsibility for any of this stuff back in the U.S. So you have to get letters from, flag officers, from Congress. It's an uphill battle. And if whatever you're buying was ever subsidized by the U.S. government, so like a Peace Pharaoh program to Egypt, or any FMS sale where we kind of absorbed a lot of the cost, then it has to go to Congress to approve. That's never really happened.
Wow.
So the system incentivizes you to buy foreign aircraft. So if you were buying a Mirage, a MiG-29, a Flanker, the approval to import it is an ATF Form 6, which is the exact same thing you'd fill out if you were importing like a rifle from World War II. That's it.
Wow.
So we were successful getting A4s in with, and they had APG-66, so they had like decent radars. And that wound up being freaking like 3 years of State Department battles with throwing everything we could at it. It became so much easier to just buy Mirages and L-159s and things that didn't require that pain.
That's crazy.
Well, like we flew, Gonky and I flew with the L-159s down at Eglin, and those are upgraded. So when you guys upgrade jets, what's the is it like, are you having to go through the FAA, or is it just because it's experimental, you kind of do whatever, or is it part of the contract, or?
So the 159s were those were new builds from the factory. They were like one of the best deals we got. So the Czech Republic built an L-159 after the wall came down. These were all made in like 2002. They're all single seaters. They have more than double the thrust of the original L-39 with a US 4th gen motor. It's an F-124 engine. It had a brand new radar on it, a Griffo radar from Italy. So it was like an APG-68. And they all had like 20 hours on them. They were all mothballed because they couldn't find any buyers. So we came in and bought like 17 of them for like $1.5 million each. The motor itself, the radar was worth like $4 million. And we put those out there, and they like, the only downside is like with all the thrust, it had a fat straight wing. So no matter how big of a motor in the
Oh yeah. Oh, we know they're not that fast.
We know Gonky is the
I got
reason
yelled
there's a
at.
Raptor guy that got mad because, well, the 159s were like 20 miles in trail of the T-38s because they couldn't hang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that could be faster.
At least they had a radar they could hang out for a little bit. You know, it wasn't just
Yeah.
They could see that they were far in the back, but they couldn't do anything about it.
Well, anyway, they were, you know, like that's it. The government they couldn't be like too choosy about it. The alternative was a lot of T-38s, right? So, which is fine, mix them up in there. But in any case, those were an awesome deal when we got them.
Yeah. Did it take a lot to bring them back up to snuff? Because you said they built them, didn't have a buyer for them. I mean, were they mothballed or were they pretty flyable right away?
Oh man, if I could like drop the pictures from my laptop on it, they were hermetically sealed indoors in a climate controlled hangar in bags. Like
wow.
They never aged a day. So it was those were so cool. We got those up going very quickly. Like the A4s took longer, the Mirages took a lot longer. Like once you store something outside, you're screwed. But those were indoors and super nice.
Were those like Brazilian A4s? Where'd the A4s come from? Argentina?
New Zealand.
Or New Zealand. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And you flew the A4? Was that one of the? How is that? Is it pretty cramped or? I've heard everybody I've talked to is like, man, if you're, it's tight. It's tighter than a Viper.
Oh, you definitely wear it. It's I love that. I mean, we had these 6 A4Ns we got from Germany. They were basically what the Blues and the Navy aggressors flew. So they stripped them all down. They came from Israel, but they were fully stripped down. They put a bigger motor in with 20% more thrust. So it was 1-to-1 thrust to weight on half internal fuels, which is like an hour and a half of gas. It was crazy.
Wow.
And it was such an awesome airplane to. I mean, there's a reason they used them as aggressors for so long. So that was my favorite one to fly, but I flew all the different A4s we had.
Well, let's talk about the MiG-29. What was the origin story of it? And, how is that? Because you just did a flyover not too long ago, right? Like last weekend, maybe a week ago. Just did but let's talk about that.
I'd argue you have the nicest looking, best maintained MiG-29.
Yeah, in the world.
In the world.
That is so true. It is the best, and I don't get all the credit. So it was, so just tell you, I mean, at Draken, we never bought, we bought 25 like super low time MiG-21 BIS models. And it was going through a weird time where the oversight of these jets went from the FAA to the military. And you had to get, for the Air Force, it was an MFR, military flight release from like the TAA office, and the Navy, it was called an interim flight clearance. And the bottom line is you're no longer flying under the FAA. You're flying as if you're a Viper or anything else. And they come in there with like a wire brush on everything. And this was right at a point where they basically said, you have to prove full pedigree from the manufacturer. And they just were never going to get their arms around the Soviet hardware. Because we could have, look, compared to like even just the T-38 option, we had these beautiful low time MiG-21s that would have been like $3,000 an hour to operate, and you could have data linked them and put like pythons on the wings.
Oh wow! Yes.
Anyway, they wound up. I think we donated them to all the ranges, so they've probably been getting blown up for a while.
Oh no! That's sad to hear.
But anyway, so like we never bought the Eastern stuff because we just thought we'd never get them through approvals. And then with the MiG-29s, because Hungary had them for sale, Malaysia had them for sale, Uzbekistan, we were like, there's no way they'll be able to like keep up with like the US flight rate program. Like we're not going to get 300 hours a year or whatever out of these jets. So we just never did anything. And then after I sold Draken, Paul Allen died, and he had the nicest MiG-29 in the world. And I was like, screw it. There's too much of a good aggressor connection here. I got to do this. And it's amazing. And it's a code 1 machine. Like it turn it 5 times a day. It's absolutely insane. How wrong we were about how reliable they are.
It's a good maintenance program.
Yeah,
it's a good maintenance program, man.
I don't know. I've talked to a lot of guys who flew like the East German jets, and like the MiG-29 is shockingly pretty reliable. Like everything else on the radar. But
you have an amazing video. I was watching it today on your YouTube channel. You flying that thing in Montana. It was absolutely beautiful, and the smoke from the engines. So you obviously you're still using the standard engines that came in. I mean, are those things? I remember when I was in Malaysia, they the engines on those seem like they couldn't go very long without some sort of major overhaul. I mean, is that kind of what you guys have, or?
Yeah, that's like that sucks. They are of all the engines that we've supported over the years, from like Mirage engines, like L159s, even like when we looked into the F-16 motors, like these are insane. They're 350-hour TBOs times 2, and the cost is like shockingly high, like way higher than you'd imagine. So, I mean, your flight hour cost on the engines alone is like pretty bad. And yeah, they do, until you get to like the Dash 3s, which the Malaysians may have put in some. The Indians on the boat have them, and all the SMTs and SMs, like they have the new motors. But the most of the MiG-29s out there have the same one I do, which is still smokes unless you go to blower.
It's not like you can. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, have you been able to like fight anybody with them? Have you gone out and done some BFM with the MiG-29, and how did it do?
Well, they were other airplanes in my inventory, so they had no.
So the boss always wins. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you on this flyover. I mean, this is not going to surprise anyone, but it was so cool as shit because I mean, it was Memorial flyover for EvilPEC, and I was rejoining with it. The MiG-21 was left from an airport in California. We were rejoining in the air along with the 2 Raptors, and I think I was holding it like 4,500 feet over the dry lake bed, and the MiG-21 was doing this like really, idle descent from, I don't know, see, he had no gas, so he was like just trying to come down to meet me, and I literally looked over my shoulder and saw him like just dead 6, and it was like 10-second rejoin. I mean, just putting in some power and just pulling the stick back in the lap. I mean, the nose just moves. It is. Anyway, it's not. I mean, look, it's the coolest shit I get to fly. So I don't know.
I think it's the coolest to anybody. I mean, the MiG-29 is a pretty cool airplane. Now, is it upgraded avionics wise? I mean, do you have like a upgraded panel? It's not all the old. It's not in metric, is it?
No, it's you actually have to. The ADI, the HSI, a lot of the original instrument, it has like kind of a baby analog fly-by-wire. It's basically got a lot of limiters, and if you pull those instruments out, it communicates those analog instruments. It screws your whole flight control system. So basically, you just bury them on the panel and drop Garmin's in above it. So it's got nice Garmin's in there, but you still have Cyrillic everywhere and some older.
Perfect. It's ambiance. It gives you that ambiance of, hey, I'm flying a thing. And in my class, this question, it's not FAA type range. You still have to do a check ride though, right? With the FAA to fly it in U.S. airspace. I can't imagine there's a lot of MiG guys in the country.
So everything I fly is all under FAA certificate. So it's all standard type rating. At Draken, we would still like dual or sometimes triple cert the jets with exhibition, R&D certs, and a military flight release. So you would still have your FAA type ratings in the jets to go, like if you're going from, say, Florida to Nellis, you're flying in the civil airspace on that. And then when you get there, they issue, their flight releases every day like any other jet, and you're not flying under a civil. So in short answers, everybody always had a type rating in every jet.
Wow. So you have a guy that's, no kidding, a MiG guy in the country that's doing MiG-29 checkouts and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think he has a type rating in the jet. No. He just is like he's a designated pilot examiner for a lot of unusual ex-military aircraft. So he sat back. But he's good.
That sounds like actually a pretty sweet gig. I don't actually have a qual in this jet, but I'm going to qual you. Just give me a ride.
Yeah. That was normal. That's how it was expected. That's what awesome. It does.
So you said you sold Draken. Do you still participate? Do you communicate, or are you out of that business altogether and just focused on space now?
I'm still very close to, like all the guys that are still there. And, I personally the business went in a different direction in the US and put much more emphasis internationally, which good and disappointing somewhat at the same time. Like losing Nellis was a heartbreak. But anyway, still chat with a lot of the folks, but I'm not in that line of business anymore.
So how did you transition to? Sorry, Gonky, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but do you still use like the MiG-29 and some of the other aircraft for training for the space exploration, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, so we use it for training. We do some like aerial observation. We support test pilot school work. So we still do. We just aren't like in the mass red air business. We do like one-off things that, that are helpful.
So how did you transition to space? Like, did you call Elon and say, "Hey, bud, can I go to space?" Like, how'd that work out?
So I was kind of close to the industry in 2008. I did this record flight in a biz jet around the world, and I got invited to go to Baikonur in Kazakhstan to see the Soyuz fly. I also went to the main MiG factory too, which was pretty badass.
Oh.
Just seeing the side of runways just lined up with MiGs was so cool. Anyway,
what does the new MiG smell? Is it vodka? Like, what does a new MiG smell like?
That's right.
They weren't new. I'll tell you that. They were old. It was a lot of 25s and 29s and 21s and 23s just lining the runways.
Right out of the factory.
Oh yeah, they came right out of the factory like 30 years before I got there.
Oh, okay.
They just abandoned shit all over the place.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But
that's
anyway, 2008 was my first exposure to kind of the commercial space industry, and then just periodically knocked on the door, and then got really lucky in 2020, having no idea that. I mean, I figured there was, a lot of people in front of me, and before even NASA's Crew 1 launched, Inspiration 4 was created. And that's been, more than 4 years now.
Yeah. And so the very first time you went to space, they put you through basically astronaut training, right? I mean, just same as NASA. Was NASA running it, or was it kind of a joint effort, or just same training?
NASA sends their Dragon crews to SpaceX the same as we do. I mean, we were in there's a couple different rooms with simulators, and you'd have Crew 3 in the other room getting ready for their mission, and we were in the other, and then you meet Crew 4. I mean, we both go through the exact same Dragon training. So really but a lot of their work is not getting to and from space anymore. Like, their work is when they're on the space station for 6 months. So they spend a lot of time preparing for, their expedition. They spend a lot of time underwater at the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. So that's where the differences were. We weren't doing an EVA on that mission, and we weren't going to the space station.
Did you find that having all your aviation experience made it easier for you and easier for everybody else because they felt comfortable when you took them up in the airplanes?
Yeah, I mean, there's no, if you have a lot of, if you got a lot of glass cockpit time, when you slide under the seat and look up at the displays on Dragon, you'll get it pretty quick. Maybe other than like their backup ADI, which is a little nuts.
What's going on with that?
I mean, you can literally be pointed in any direction and be going, and almost assuredly your velocity is in a different one. And it's kind of a backup. It's an old school digitally rendered backup ADI in space that it's still that one's still a little tough. But normally, like your main kind of like PFDs and MFDs, like you would instantly be at home like you'd be navigating pages and procedures really quick. So that's all very intuitive. Even kind of the flying part is pretty intuitive on it. And then like just kind of understanding the systems and going through, the manuals, even the buildup and training of kind of, nominal contingencies, emergencies, and then, your boldface on what to do in the emergencies. There is just a lot of similarities there. There's a lot of like engineering side of things too, that were, like I never got down to the valve in an aircraft. So like, there was another level of systems knowledge that was, kind of expected, but
it's because you never flew like transport category aircraft.
at a low rate carrier that doesn't have AQP, Gonky. Yes. Third rate carrier that gets shot at. Too soon. But for the craft itself, I mean, is it mostly automated, or like, are you practicing both the manual? Is there a manual intervention that you can do, or is it all automated and you're just managing systems?
Oh no, I mean, look, if everything's going right, you're on autopilot almost the entire time. Now you're interacting and directing things just like you would be, again, going cross country in a glass cockpit. You'd be inputting things, direct twos, if you will, although it's a little different. But if something goes wrong, I mean, at the time of Inspiration 4, your landing site and all of your whole deorbit profile was not made available until after you were in space. So, I mean, if you arrived on orbit and had any sort of communication failure, then you were entirely on your own to come back home. My second mission, like that, we had preloaded, a deorbit profile. So it was kind of SpaceX never stops trying to make their stuff better. But bottom line is, like, and there's tons of contingencies where you have the ability to manually take over. I would say it's very similar to like a CCIP system. Like you can literally pick your spot and that's where Dragon hits.
Oh, wow.
And ideally that's in the water.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, technique only.
Yeah.
So for that first mission, how much of your time did that actually take? I mean, was it a full-time job at that point, preparing from the day you started to the day you got back, and then a little bit after that? Or were you still doing your other business stuff? Or like, what was your work-life balance at that point?
It was, that was, basically from March of 21 until September of 21. And I'd say, a lot of my time was spent out in Hawthorne. Like that went very quickly. That probably was one of the fastest, like, you've got a mission to when you flew it. Now, I was still keeping up with my day job for sure. And that's, if I want to do, cool shit like we are with SpaceX or help out St. Jude, like taking care of my main responsibilities is a good way to make sure that happens. But I would say it was a lot of time because it was new. This last one, was 2.5 years long, which had, some, various kind of hurry up and wait moments, and it was stop and go at different times because it was developmental. You'd get things right, get them wrong. So it was a lot easier to, make sure that my day job had like, my complete attention because just kind of the way it went over the last 2.5 years.
Sorry, go ahead, dude.
Go ahead, Gonky.
I was listening a little bit. Are you speaking earlier? And I guess the vision is maybe Moon then Mars, right? For space exploration.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess where I'm going with this is like when you were talking about it, I remember you saying like some of the things that they learned in the 60s from landing on the moon and space exploration back then. You guys had to kind of relearn some of that stuff. And I guess, my question is, was that a big setback? Was it frustrating? I mean, is there still a lot of that?
No, there was nothing negative about it. It was cool as hell. And the only reason I made the comment, like obviously NASA is contracted with SpaceX for the human landing system to put American astronauts back on the moon. So that is a very high priority. It's just when Starship comes online, it will, if it has the capability to go to the moon, it essentially has the capability to go to Mars. It's a big dynamic change with, like, call it, space-based aerial refueling. Once it's topped off in orbit, it can go in like anywhere. So, the amount of incremental velocity to go from the moon to Mars is not much. So bottom line is, like, this will be a big, like, light switch moment for really all of humankind. Once SpaceX has the ability to bring astronauts back to the moon, they literally have the ability to kind of help us explore the entire solar system, which is super badass to think about. But yeah, sorry, you were.
Yeah, I just thought it was when you mentioned it that
like relearning this.
Yeah, like having to relearn stuff. I was like, I thought that was a little fascinating that stuff wouldn't be, the things that they learned from traveling to the moon, the numerous times we did it back in the 60s and stuff, like that wouldn't be valuable knowledge you'd want to hang on to because that was a very tremendous undertaking back then and very expensive,
Yeah.
So.
And that's what's so cool. I mean, we achieved such amazing things during the space race. I mean, it was we were fighting a Cold War and like, our way of life, ideologically prevailing over the communists. Like we put 4.5% of US GDP in NASA's budget. It's huge. and we achieved amazing things for it. And honestly, I don't even know if you took 4.5% over the last like 10 years, if you'd be able to replicate in the same timeline, because you had so many more defense contractors that were all hungry then versus, the world we've evolved into. But in any case, like SpaceX now privately funding these, like pure commercial endeavors, is trying to do the same damn thing. It is like a Manhattan Project level endeavor without every taxpayer kicking in. So yeah, they had to relearn how to do EVAs and how to build spacesuits, because the ones that are on the space station are 40 years old. They literally have to send them back and forth to Earth for maintenance. Like it costs hundreds of millions to maintain them, and they still break. So like there's a lot SpaceX has to figure out. We haven't been as high as we were until our last mission, and that's hard. There's a ton of debris up there that will shred a spaceship. There's high radiation. You get no protection from Earth's magnetic sphere. It's higher energy deorbits. Higher you go, faster you're going to come back down. More energy to dissipate. So these are all problems that exist that SpaceX is taking upon themselves to figure out how to solve. And it's awesome to be part of it. So like whatever time it took to get it done was totally worth being part of.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So your second trip, were the NASA astronauts are they still stuck up there? Are they up there right now?
I never considered them stuck. There was
temporarily relocated. Yeah, after 6 months, I think you live there. So yeah, squatters' rights.
I mean, it honestly, it's like freaking, just for America, like in the competitiveness of our nation, it's like heartbreaking, like that. We can't rely on, these, because my point, like the point I always try to make, like, look, it's great that we got a SpaceX, but for whatever the controversy associated with it, we need a shitload more SpaceXs in the world and in this country. And it's like, there is no SpaceX keeping the big defense primes in check on any of the other stuff. It's just in space. Like that's a problem. So anyway, it's kind of heartbreaking that had to happen, but like those astronauts up there always had a way to come home. I think that was proven when there was a period of time that they already brought Starliner home and Crew 9's vehicle hadn't arrived yet. It was like, well, what was their path home in an emergency? And there was a path that was still docked there. So they always had a way to come home. I never thought they were stranded or whatnot, but definitely heartbreaking. We need like all of our defense industry kicking ass. So
yeah. Well, a little less controversial. Your first time going to space. I mean, what are you thinking as, the countdown goes to 0 and you start feeling those G's? Like, what is that like?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I was thinking of Snort. He had just died actually a few months in a crash before that flight, and his widow asked me to fly his ashes. So I was thinking about one more go with Snort, and what he'd be telling me in that moment was, you just got to hack it, man. It's gonna be the ride of your life. And
oh, wow.
And then it was like when you get to ignition, you're at a point where the mass of the vehicle and the thrust, I mean, you're barely achieving your kind of good thrust to weight ratio. You hardly notice it coming off the pad. It's not like hitting the accelerator. Now within like 10 seconds, you're burning off propellant so fast, the thing starts accelerating. You're supersonic pretty quick. But it's not till like your last like 30 seconds of the second stage where you really got peak G's, versus when you come home on reentry. I mean, those are the hardest like 4.5 G's of your life. They last like 10 minutes.
Wow. So reentry is harder on the body than
totally, because you decondition up there too. So it's like we've back, and I told Kid was with me. I mean, he's 3,000 hour Viper guy that on this last mission. I was like, how'd you like those reentry G's? He's like, they felt like a shitload more than 4.5 to me. It's like your body gets just deconditioned. So it's like 10 minutes of like what feels like 5.5 G's. So that's a little more of a high blood pressure thing. And
there's no G suit, right? You're just you're like a Blue Angel. You're just doing your thing.
Yeah, but you're taking it's GX versus GZ. So instead of like pulling blood from your head, it's like an elephant sitting on your chest. So the human body can handle like 20 plus. And in abort profiles, you can hit over 20.
Wow.
God.
It's a little different, but it's there. And there's no like on the way uphill, you basically are in an ejection seat, right? Like the vehicle can separate from Falcon 9. So, and it's going to do it in a millisecond. And you're so confident that like there's so many different ways out. You also have like literally an ejection handle, a board handle to separate. So you can really enjoy the ride uphill and be like charged up about it. And everybody is. It's always smiles. Like the mission's beginning. The way downhill, there is no plan B. It's all the heat shield and the thermal protection system. And like you've got to take all that energy that you put into that vehicle out of it. And you don't know if you nicked a little piece of micrometeoroid debris across the heat shield, in which case it would just be over. So it's like a totally different set of sensations and feelings coming home than going up.
Gonky, are you sold? Are you ready to go to space yet?
I'm okay down here for now.
Geez. Well, so on this last trip, you did something pretty special.
Yeah.
You did a EVA, right? That's the official term, extravehicular activity. I mean,
Spacewalk.
First commercial spacewalk. Talk about that.
Awesome.
What is that like?
I think that, look, for starters, like all four of us essentially did it together. So there's no airlock on Dragon. So that was the first time 4 people were in the vacuum of space at the same time. So we had to vent the whole vehicle down. 2 stayed in, 2 went outside. We were all wearing EVA suits. So we were all doing it together, and we were really doing it for really everyone at SpaceX. I mean, it was a self-funded initiative to build a badass new suit. I mean, things got a HUD in it, a camera, like it can, nothing survives micrometeoroid orbital debris hits, but it can keep you alive long enough to get back in. It's got thermal regulation, a ton of mobility under high pressure, so minimizes the risk of decompression sickness. And it was just felt fortunate to be there, and that really like we get the good data back, and they're going to, in good SpaceX form, like they're going to learn from it. And the next thing you know, you're going to have suits that people are going to be wearing on the moon or Mars. So I mean, that was like there was some, pressure that you wanted to do it and get it right, but it was a hell of an experience.
Gonky, we can't get a HUD in the T-38, but to get a HUD in their Iron Man suit.
I watched it's so cool. Like, I don't know, all the space footage from like when I was a kid watching, it's all kind of grainy because obviously many years ago. And the footage you guys had just prior to opening the hatch, I mean, it's almost like you're right there. And then they showed, from your vantage point, looking out the hole in the space it's pretty crazy. But I think you guys were traveling, was it 25,000 kilometers? Was it kilometers per hour?
We were about, so it's kind of, if you think about it, in the vertical. So you're at your slowest at apogee, your highest altitude, and you're raging down low. And so down low, we were over 8 kilometers per second. But generally speaking, if you want to average it out, like 17,500 miles an hour.
And it looks so peaceful.
Is it? Yeah, it's got to be pretty peaceful, huh?
The Earth looks peaceful. Looking out into the darkness of space with just the visor is a little bit more like unwelcoming. But just on that whole, like, can't get a HUD in the T-38 deal, like I mean, at Draken, like I was like, I just want to get helmets in the jet, and then we'll get Pythons, and that'll be the poor man's Earth. And and you couldn't, and nothing got done fast. We literally came in a weekend, and the first HUD, which was like, it is a monocle, was in the suit, and it looked like somebody just 3D printed in their garage, and it worked. And then you'd come in a week later, and they like polished it, made it look nicer, and then a week later, and then they added more features. And in a span of like less than 6 months, you had this badass, fully integrated heads-up display in the suit. And all I could think about is the same thing you said, is like, why the hell does this shit take years and then never works right? And
we could tell. We get on that soapbox pretty often.
We just wanted a working ADI. That's all we really wanted, is to be able to fly in the weather and not die.
Yeah.
Geez. So, I mean, from a philosophical perspective, right? You're looking down on Earth. Does it kind of put things in perspective for you in general, like for mankind?
Yeah. I mean, they talk about what's called the overview effect, and in the 1960s, I have no doubt the first Russian cosmonauts and American astronauts that went up there had to be literally blown the hell away. Like I can't imagine. I mean, think about it. We've seen videos and pictures. Like we have a pretty good idea of what it looks like up there. For them, I'm sure that they were forever changed. And I think even, you know, look, anyone I've been to space with for sure has changed in some way or the other. But the whole, like, you know, we shouldn't be fighting wars or destroying our atmosphere over, you know, like, you don't need to go to space to know those things. So I think some of the overview effect is like recycled talking points. For me, it was just seeing the Earth out there. Seeing the moon out there and being like, I can't freaking believe we haven't been back in 50 years. My kids haven't seen this. I didn't grow up at a time when humans walked on the moon. Like, what have we been doing? Like, we got to get out there, because there's no question we're going to learn some pretty cool shit out there. And it is, it's going to change everything for us back on Earth. It's totally our destiny to do it. So I've just always felt very energized to kind of want to contribute and keep pushing farther out there, because it's where we belong.
Rook, I got a quick question for you. I don't know if you're a slightly religious person or not, but like when you're out there in space, like, you know, looking at the Earth, looking out into the black, I mean, did anything come to mind? I mean, did you think about, like, you know, the creation of it all? And I'm just curious, because I would.
Yeah, like a lot of things go through your mind. You definitely have an appreciation for what we have is very unique and special, because there's literally nothing in the neighborhood like it. But there is so much out there. I mean, literally a speck of dust, you know, kind of in like this vast desert that is our galaxy, let alone, like, you know, our universe. There is certainly things that are out there that are going to be important for us to understand. And it's not all like, you know, grand design, you know, answering the big question stuff. Like, there are things out there that, you know, from like whether it's an economic or national security perspective, that we can't afford not to go out and try and understand. New forms of power. Who the hell knows? 3D printing organs. Like, there is a lot that we're going to learn from being out there. And like I said, we belong there. Like, this is the natural, like, evolution for us from crossing the seas and the oceans and climbing the mountains, is to go out and conquer this last frontier. And if we don't, others will. So, like, I think it's like an imperative for our nation.
So what's next for you?
Purely religious, man. It's just, there's a lot of feelings out there.
Sure.
Well, what's next to keep this going, right? You've done 2 missions. Will there be more? Like, what is your role going forward to help create a path for humankind to continue exploring the cosmos?
Yeah, I mean, look, the SpaceXers are doing all the hard work. I mean, I mean, you got 14,000 people there, and I've had a chance to watch them work for 4 years now. These are absolutely the brightest minds in America. They show up to work and literally burn themselves out every day, because they don't believe they can make a bigger impact in the world doing anything else. And the results are seeing rockets land on ships or giant, you know, chopsticks catching skyscrapers in the air. It's mind-boggling shit. So they're doing the hard work. The game changer is Starship. That is a light switch event for us. You know, I mean, that is, you skip everything that happened in between the Wright Flyer and the 737. Like, and even that probably isn't a fully correct analogy, because we are going to go from a lucky few that get to go up in a Dragon, where everybody has a role and there's a bunch of training associated with it, to factories cranking out starships that can fit 100 people in it, that when they refuel in space can literally go anywhere. And whether it's got people on it or not, you could literally throw, you know, a Hubble on every one of them and have a prefab spaceship going out to different corners of our solar system. There's just so much potential. So our goal is to bridge that. The whole Polaris program is a test and developmental program to bridge the gap between what we have today and when that light switch gets thrown. So there's a second Polaris mission where we'll almost assuredly build on the suit design and the EVA capabilities of SpaceX. And then the third mission is the first crewed flight of Starship. So that's the, you know, that's when our kind of journey begins and a whole new one forms for really, you know, humankind.
So all of this was being developed in tandem as you were doing it, right? You talked about the suit and stuff like that. It's all experimental tech. What is the testing level before they actually put you in space with a HUD, for example?
Oh, I mean, we had hundreds of hours of pressurized time in our suits through every version. It was like you'd come in 1 week and you'd have a new arm, a new wrist. It was like our development suits were like Frankenstein. Compare this wrist to that wrist, this arm, and you just get pressed up. And then we're going to run it at this PSI. And now we're going to run it higher because higher is better for DCS, but you give up mobility. We did so much testing in the suits. We did cold weather testing, or not cold weather, like literally cold contact testing at like -80 using liquid nitrogen. We did a ton of simulations in it with these offloading systems that basically simulate microgravity. You're basically dangling from the ceiling, but you can go in and out of the simulator that's powered instead of submerging it. And then like the graduation exercise was, we were in the vacuum chamber at NASA and went to vacuum in it. But they also did tons of material testing. I mean, we went to White Sands Missile Range where they literally fired millimeter pieces of aluminum at near orbital velocities to see what happened. And what happened is it goes through it. It goes through freaking everything, by the way.
Wow.
Orbital velocity is like a pretty big deal. Like it shreds like through feet of aluminum. But anyway, so there's a lot of testing that's done to see how things will or won't work, and flammability, ESD. So it was a lot of work over the last two plus years.
Wow.
Awesome. Well, we only have a few more minutes with you. We got a couple questions from the audience we wanted to get to before we said goodbye. Angie would like to know Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars and the dark side. They have big ambition.
Let's see. This one is from Airwolf, which, by the way, do you do any helicopter stuff? I'm curious now. Has there been any helicopter stuff in your life?
I've ridden them a few times. I actually thought that was one of the more dangerous parts of our mission. That's how we get off the ship.
I'm just wondering, Airwolf we could make this happen. It is possible. We have the technology.
If you had an engine with greater thrust endurance, wouldn't you enable a gentler reentry? I think like it's less about the engine at that point, and it's about the heat shield, because like you're putting a lot of energy in a vehicle to get it into orbit, and then you have to take it out when you come home. And this is like a major problem right now for Orion, which is NASA's spaceship to go to the moon. Is like when you re-enter from coming back from the moon, it's a much different problem than coming back from low Earth orbit, and their heat shield had cracks in it. So there's options on like you could have like a more ballistic reentry and get rid of the heat very quickly, but that becomes like a 20 G event. Or you could have like a shallower entry angle and bleed the energy over some period of time. So there's a lot of trades that go into it, but I'd say it's much more about the thermal protection system than it is about the engine when you're coming home.
Nice.
Awesome. And then Angie says, which I'm curious now, tell us more about your work with St. Jude. I was bummed when I found out late that you and the other Polaris Dawn astronauts were in my hometown in April 2023 to donate Starlink kits to the hospital. You've done a ton of work with St. Jude. Awesome. Tell us about that. I mean,
look, this is, even going back to the 60s, right? There was always a debate about the cost of being in space and how those dollars could be going to help people here on Earth. And there's a great debate. That obviously, look, that's why we haven't gone back to the moon in 50 years. So I think recognizing that even with reusability, space is still expensive. It's about to become a whole lot cheaper when Starship comes online, and that's when the real experimentation will take place. But while it's expensive, it makes a difference, the message you send to the world. And I think it's an important one that we will not ignore the problems that we have today, and we will build that better future for tomorrow. It's not a binary line of thinking. So we've been raising money for St. Jude since Inspiration 4. It's over like 260 million plus now. And we've been using Starlinks as part of like the global reach to bring them into different countries. So maybe referring to the Philippines trip we went to, we brought them to pediatric cancer hospital there, and then they're able to telemedicine back with St. Jude in Memphis and try and raise global childhood cancer survival rates. So it's a big part of our mission. It's why we did that cool orchestra from space. We've done a bunch of things like it. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. Good on you for doing that. That's really cool. And then the final question, which is always a poop question. Got to ask what the toilet is like on Dragon. Saul was right above the hatch.
Yeah, so let me just start with it's not anywhere near as bad as you think it is. So it looks like we live in a closet, but by spaceship standards, it's rather roomy compared to like Soyuz. And when you can float and use all three, you basically have all this extra volume. We created like a 3-layer closet. So you had your upper floor, that was really the toilet. Then you had kind of your mid deck, which is where the displays are, and then you kind of had your lower level, and that's where you pretty much did all your science and research experiments. And reality is like you could have people down there doing all sorts of science and research, and somebody up, at the top deck using the toilet, and you didn't even know. I mean, look, there's a lot of noise always going on in the vehicle from like different vents and fans that are just circulating our air. There's tons of filters, that are in it. So like, yeah, so it's like, it's honestly, it's relatively a non-event. At least it was on this last mission. It did break on our first mission. That wasn't us. That was a design flaw that affected the NASA missions too. It's not like someone clogged the toilet in space. So anyway, the bottom line is it worked.
The upper decker. It's the upper decker. That's where you go. Hey guys, gotta go take an upper decker up here.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, sir, on that note, we appreciate you joining us this evening.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
We thank you for, your contributions to St. Jude and obviously to space, because
in the future
we're available. Just saying, we're always.
I like
available.
the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Hey,
but thank you so much.
Armadas of starships coming. There's be a lot of opportunities for everyone. And hey, thanks for thinking of me, reaching out. I love talking aviation and space. So this is cool. Thanks.
Come back anytime. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
You too.
Take
care.
Bye. Wow.
Gonky, it's just us now.
Oh, man. Doug, are you still there? Did we?
In space, no one can hear you scream.
Just soaking it in.
Yeah. Wild, huh?
I don't think we got hired, Gonky. You ruined it for me.
Dude. I think you
blame
ruined
you.
it for you.
No, I think you ruined it.
Dude, you can't have that much facial hair in space.
Right? Commander Riker.
Dude. You like Star Wars, bro.
Joe, what? Chewbacca? All of them? Luke's, they all had beards.
Dude.
Obi-Wan had a beard.
Yeah, time to open a photo. No, he would not be
Joe
impressed.
says, hi guys, if you really want to impress Jared, it's time to open the Herc photo album. Pneumatic Elephant says, gentlemen, on this Veterans Day, thank you for your service. Gentlemen, good luck, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Past and present. Also, Lazing Wombat in the comments. Flylet and Navy. I saw this one and I wasn't going to ask him because I figured that wouldn't get the joke. He'd probably get the joke, but then he'd banned. Being an astronaut, we're allowed to see the soundstage. They shot the Apollo moon landing. I am not going to ask a guest that. Not gonna happen. Ethor says, hey all, how are we doing tonight? We're doing well. How are you?
Yeah, really good.
HUD for the IROC find.
But I think you meant yeah. IROC didn't need a HUD.
Did you need a security clearance for Red Air fighters? You do require a security clearance for such thing. I'm sure for space too. Sure. I bet space requires it too.
Yeah, if he's working with.
And then you guys want to be astronauts when you grow up?
No.
Yes, because I'll never grow up. You don't want to go to space, Gonky?
No. No, I've never, even as a kid, I was like, it just sounds like a bad. Any place I take my helmet off, my head blows up, I'm like, not for me.
Such a Debbie Downer, dude. I'd go to space.
Well, I know you would.
Yeah, but you ruin it because as soon as I'm like, hey, we got a job, you're like, no, we wouldn't. None of us want to go. We're 2 for 1.
Just save your life, bro.
Yeah.
No, that would be a 1 for 1. I'll be a mission control.
Laura says that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Mike Tyson. Was it for man or for a man? The great debate rages. No, I think it was for man. Great episode. 787 is already a spaceship. Yeah. I would want to go like just there and back. I don't want to stay for like a week. You know what I'm saying? Or 6 months or whatever.
Well, he's got a week in space.
That's too much. That's too much space time.
Dude, when they've got the upper deck, or what's the toilet called again? I've already forgot.
The upper decker.
The upper decker, dude. You're all set.
Well, it's not about the toilet. I miss Luna, which she came in, and obviously we can't show the Luna during the there.
Yeah, pretty wild, man.
D Stu says you got to be nice to Gonky. No, get out of here with that. I shouldn't even read that. It's too mean. All right, we got news we got to cover, Gonky.
We can, yeah. What do you want to talk about first, Mover?
Spirit Airlines getting shot at.
Yeah, wild, huh?
Doug, do you have that?
I do not. Where should I look for it?
Where they were flying into Haiti, man. They got shot at, bullets in the cabin. One of the flight attendants got injured, right?
Spirit Airlines. I'm just going to read it. We're not even going to bring it up. Bullets pierced the cabin. Flight attendant got injured. Minor injuries. They were going to Port-au-Prince. I didn't even know Spirit went to Port-au-Prince.
Yeah,
but they do.
I don't know. Yeah. Apparently, this is the first time they've taken some rounds, I guess. I mean, I
think it's the first. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what. Can you imagine? I mean, can you imagine being on final and probably just hearing some pop? I mean, I don't know. Maybe they didn't. Maybe
would you even hear it? I don't even think you'd hear it. You probably got the ding ding. Hey, sterile cockpit. No, we're getting shot at back here from a passenger. No, it's Sapphire. We're getting
exactly here, dude. Look. Well, hold on. Watch this. Hold on. Let's here. Let me share this. Can you see it? Hold on. Come on.
I got it right there.
Yeah, look at that, man. Pretty wild, huh?
Yeah.
Bullets in the airplane. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
It's Spirit, so the odds are that the people start shooting back.
Yeah. Open the doors.
They don't even open the doors. They're popping through the windows like
you
gat.
You think if the captain, the FO or FFDO, they pop.
That's what I was. Can you open a window in an Airbus?
You can open up in the cockpit on both sides.
7-8, you can't open the window. So 7-3, you could, but 7-8, you cannot.
Yeah, if you're slow enough, you can pop the window open and hang out like a cowboy, man, just returning fire.
Suppressing fire.
Yeah.
Geez.
Not good.
I've got a great quote I want to share. Spirit said it's suspending its services to Haiti pending the evaluation of the incident, and the plane was taken out of service for the time being. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of.
Yeah.
All joking aside, that's kind of scary. Very scary.
What do you bondo it? Like, how do you fix the bullet holes?
No, dude, that thing's gonna go down for some heavy maintenance, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't just one hole, and like I said, it injured a flight attendant, man. So I mean. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm pretty sure they landed there, but like, if that was me, it's like, let's just go around and go back home. You guys, we'll land. You guys take a boat down here. It's like,
wow, Gonky.
We're not going back.
Wow. Wow. Hawkeye says on the show Big Bang Theory, Howard was the engineer and joined NASA, flew a mission, real life. I thought you were going to say, I was reading this thinking this was about to be about Howard with the toilet, because the space toilet was about the potato. They weren't used to a potato-based diet for the Soyuz. And so it was clogging up and he had to go redesign the thing. That was his whole thing up there. BJ, hello. Aloha. Happy Veterans Day. 4.69. And Thomas says next space shuttle should be called the Luna Shuttle.
Just Luna.
Yeah. Riding first class on Spirit's Airlines is not as good. They call them the big comfy seats.
Pretty sure the whole airplane's first class, isn't it?
No. There's a first class.
Does Spirit really have a first class?
Yeah, they call them the big comfy seats.
I didn't know this.
It's the only seats in the whole cabin that reclines.
Really?
Yeah. Dude, how are you so uncultured? What is this? You don't know these things?
No, man. I didn't.
That's because you're afraid.
They're a budget carrier. I thought all budget carriers have, just a milk crate, sit down, pay for your peanuts.
All right. You ready to make the internet mad at you?
No. Oh boy.
Hold on.
Oh boy.
So I did a video today, Gonky, about the Su-57. Dude, it's crazy. Here, let me look and see what it's got so far. See if we got Wombat sends a message.
What do you say?
He says, we're getting crushed. No, we're crushing it. I don't know about all that.
We were. Yeah.
So the video's got 120,000 views. So I thought maybe you wanted to weigh
257?
in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the thumbnail, but in the flail today, I did not get a chance.
You never watch my stuff, Gonky. Don't pretend
do.
like you do all of a sudden. All right, here
I
we
do.
go. Here's Gonky's reaction of this 7-minute video. I hope it does
I'm
not
gonna
play in
play the whole
PowerPoint
7
mode.
minutes.
Here, we'll take it out of 4K because we don't need that. 720p is fine.
Oh yeah, I did watch this earlier.
If you say anything negative, we're going to get 1 million views on this right now.
The tail's too small.
It does have itty bitty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why am I playing? Why does StreamYard play it in PowerPoint mode? I don't understand. Maybe if I did this.
I don't know, man. I watched it earlier. My
There you
reaction
go.
is, yeah, I mean, it's pretty awesome. I don't know.
I mean,
know
that's
that's not-
nothing a Raptor doesn't do. I mean, that's pretty much any demo does this part.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, it doesn't do anything different than like you said, the Raptor, or even the flanker demo is pretty similar. I just think it's crazy because I remember when this airplane was first coming out, people were like whining about the tails, not being big enough for maneuverability. But you watch this video and it totally.
There's the old
Yeah.
Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, it's like, well, I guess they're big enough.
So this part, I'm curious because I alluded to it a little bit in the other video, and you talked about it before. What is the practical application of this maneuver?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this a lot. It's like, oh, all this crazy maneuvering doesn't really work in real combat, but I don't agree with that because, then the argument's like, why aren't we all flying around in F-104s that just goes straight and don't turn at all, right? So,
No,
when
not
I
the
look at
maneuverability, just this part.
well, what about it, man? It's like a pedal turn, man. It's awesome. He's like,
Oh, he's spinning
it's
around.
basically, yeah, he's like in a flat spin. Like, he's
Yeah, why would you want to put
self-inflicted.
yourself into a flat spin?
Well, I mean, that's just showing the nose authority of the airplane, right? So in a dogfight, it could be very useful, right? Is that what I mean? Are you asking me the tactical, practical application, or why is he doing this in the air show? He's doing the air show because
The air show is cool, but the question
Yeah.
always becomes that. So I think people get specific and say that specific thing, which that specific thing has no practical application. However, having good nose authority does.
Correct. Exactly. I mean, there's been many times in the Hornet where I just, I'm relatively wings level and I just stand on the rudder and the nose swings around, and you get nose on and radar lock, heater lock, whatever, and take a shot. So it's incredible. I mean, he's not very high off the ground, able to do, I don't know what alpha he's pulling, but I mean, it's pretty awesome. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I watched it. I was impressed. What was Mover not impressed, or
Mover just was happy to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing with this airplane that I wonder about is, I mean, it's obviously it's very maneuverable, it's very powerful, but modern warfare, what can it do as far as avionics and radar and all the, I would call nerd stuff. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, like that would probably not be all that useful. That is the Top Gun Maverick thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're just demonstrating the high alpha capability of the airplane, and probably the reliability of the engines at such alpha. And I think that's
Look how much it smokes.
awesome. Yeah.
And the smoke is awesome.
No, the smoke's not awesome, but yeah, we did get a little puff of smoke there, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I can't tell. Does Su-57 have? Does that have thrust? It's got full thrust vectoring. Do you know?
I didn't
And I
see
mean,
it.
almost have to the way the thing's moving around.
I don't think it's like 3-dimensional. I think it's like the Raptor.
Okay. It might be like the flanker where they're angled.
It's got some crazy, like the leading edge extensions go like all the way. They get this huge amount of bite.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me is it doesn't have leading edge or trailing edge flaps for takeoff or landing. Doesn't need it. It's got so much thrust that it just straight wing.
Well, plus the fuselage just looks kind of like a wing too, right? It's like a lifting. Oh, wow, dude.
That part would be pretty useful. This right
Wow.
here would be
Yeah.
nice to have.
Oh, dude. Yeah. You know I'd probably get throttled, but I'd love to do a guns only set, just one.
Depends on what airplane you're in.
Dude, any Hornet. I like to be in the Hornet, but it's fun watching the airplanes at air show like this, but you know how it is, Mover. When you're actually fighting somebody, it's just the vantage point is different.
Oh yeah.
And you get even more of an appreciation for what an airplane can do.
I mean, look at this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to be in a Raptor.
Well, of course. If we had real bullets.
I'd want to be in a Raptor.
Yeah. Dude, the Raptor is this is very Raptor-ish, if you ask me. Like, that's pretty awesome.
Are those nozzles moving?
The tail's definitely moving around. Look at that, man. You can. Wow. Tell you what, it's got a pretty sweet paint job on it. I like it.
Says 3D thrust vectoring.
3D. Wow. Well, that's probably how they got away with making the tail so small.
We don't need no stinking tail. I don't think it's bad looking.
No, I mean, like I said, man, what kind of fire control, what kind of offensive and defensive weapons does
Watch
that?
this landing, dude. Watch this landing.
Carrier, look down.
No, just watch. Look how wrapped up he is. Like he rolls out on final over the runway.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Just like perfect.
Nailed it.
Flares it off.
Wow, dude. Yeah.
To me, the visibility is not that great. Like, big canopy bow, you sit high. There's like this big thing behind you.
Look at the F-35 though.
I agree.
Same, right?
I want like a Viper.
Yeah,
I can see everything.
He's probably got that special helmet, right? Where you just,
I don't know.
Can see. Yeah.
There's the old ugly 7.3 in the background. And then,
man.
This from the show. Recognize that airplane?
Isn't that the kind of sort of F-35, the Chinese version?
Yeah.
Is that the naval? No, that's not the naval one. The gear's not. Did it fly?
They did fly it in limited amounts, but dude, what do you see here? What are the couple things you notice?
Well, I mean, like I said, the striking resemblance to the F-35, number one.
Except,
well, hold on. It's not as it doesn't look quite as
fat.
Yes, correct. Yes, this is like if the F-35 went to like on a weight loss program.
Ozempic.
This is like this is the Beachbody version.
This is Hot Girl Summer F-35.
Correct.
But
Amy, that's right.
It still has the I don't understand the spine, because it like this doesn't need to exist.
Yeah.
Because there's no lifting fan, and Fat Amy's modular, so it has to have this in all of them. Yeah. But look what else it has. Remember the AIB I just did? It's got a HUD.
Yeah.
Got a HUD.
Yeah, F-35 does not have it.
And it's got 2 engines. So they're taking their carrier variant like you want with 2 motors.
Yeah, 2 engines. That's the way to be. 2 engines, 2 tails. Yeah, that can't be, well, unless there's no catapult, because that nose gear is very Air Force-ish, land-base-ish, I should say.
This is the J35A.
Uh-oh. Did they copy us? We're gonna build one airplane for 3 services, and it's gonna be awesome.
Well, not for 3 services because where they fixed it is that the Marines,
That's right. No
the
vertical.
Marines are what like that they'd be the same thing if we didn't have to have the Marines flying around and hovering,
Yeah.
because then it would look good like that. Like, I think that
Yeah.
fixes it. Although, again, 2 engines, very nice. HUD.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't. Yeah. Fit Amy looks better than Fat Amy, dude.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, American Amy is a little bit bigger. It's a
Yeah, dude. Yeah, 100%, man. I haven't seen it fly yet, though. Have you? There's no.
yeah. Oh no, there was a video on my video where I did that, where it did.
Does it have? Does
it
it
did-
have all? Sorry.
It didn't do an air show. It just did an overhead and turned, and it looks like profile. Other than the 2 tails, it looks exactly like the F-35.
Because isn't that going to be? That's their planned, like, primary fighter for all the new carriers, right? That they're building.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, which I don't know. Usually takes a long time to get a fighter up and running. I mean,
Not if you copy paste. If
well,
you're taking an original design, copy pasting, and then fixing it, does it really take that long? And everything is state run, so you don't have lobbyists and contractors. And
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Sometimes they'll just copy and doesn't always work. But yeah, I mean, dude, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they're obviously capable. They've been building airplanes for many years, and they definitely have the will and the desire. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, what it actually looks like when it's being operated off the carriers and stuff. You never know, dude. The production one might not have a HUD.
you think they would take the HUD out?
I wonder. Let me look, dude. I wonder if, like back in the 90s when the JSF and that Boeing guppy looking fighter thing were doing the competition. I mean, I wonder if they had HUDs back then, because those were just like concepts. They're just trying to prove it was like a design concept, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that, I just did the AIB report. Oh, we can talk about that since we didn't talk about it last week. What's your take on the Marine F-35B?
Speaking of Fat Amy.
Yeah, I mean, good segue. That the colonel that was relieved of command almost a full year after his mishap.
Yeah, so it's been about 10 days or so, but yeah, so that I read some of that, man. It was, to me, so I just look at it from an operator standpoint. And I think it's poor. It's a poor look. I mean, you've got a seasoned aviator. He was primarily a Harrier guy. He'd been in since like 93. So he's, committed to his country, and he's obviously a professional Marine Corps aviator. And if you look at the failures that he was having in the airplane while in solid IMC conditions, very close to the ground, I don't think he was wrong to eject. I used to teach students all the time. My favorite saying was eject early, eject often, because they're still building jets off the assembly line, but they're not making any more of you. And two, I mean, it's right. I mean, there are 2 guys that are dead from my rag tour because they ejected like a half a second too late. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So don't delay, right? You always say don't delay your ejection or your decision to eject. And he was at 1,900 feet. I mean, you know how it is, mover. We have the minute to live rule, right? So if you're in solid IMC in a fast jet and your instrumentation starts going crazy and you don't know what to trust, what's going on, in a fighter, 1,900 foot per minute descent is nothing, right? So, I mean,
yeah, no, dude. I mean,
his decision, I think, was sound. And then for him to finish that tour, get selected for command at a test squadron, go assume command, like what, a year later, and then the general being like, "Oh, it came back as pilot error. We're going to remove you from command," and with the assumption being, "Hey, you crashed a perfectly good F-35, or you shouldn't have ejected." I think that's poor. It sends a poor message. I would like to think that maybe there's something else that we're missing that's not out in the public, because, like I said, I just can't imagine any aviator who's been in ejection seat tactical airplanes doing something like that to another aviator. I don't know. Mover, am I crazy?
Eric Smith is the commandant of the Marine Corps.
That's right. Yeah, he got relieved by the yes. Is he a pilot?
That's what I was looking at. So he did a whole bunch of stuff. He's a Marine officer instructor. No.
A commandant?
He attended amphibious warfare school.
Yeah, so he was, yeah.
Yeah, he parachutist, rifle expert, pistol expert, Joint
Yeah.
Chiefs of Staff, meritorious. Like, no, he's not a pilot. So he's out of his lane.
Yeah, but you would hope that somebody like him would have, I don't know, at least somebody he could talk to, like, a small cabinet, if you will, of people. It's like, hey, I'm thinking about this. He crashed a perfectly good airplane. It cost the Marine Corps a lot of money. What do you guys think? Well, hey, sir, in aviation, this is kind of how it works. I don't know if he had that counsel and if he disregarded it or what, but like I said, I from a leadership perspective, like I would hope there was something else going on, but regardless, dude, it sends a poor message, in my opinion, because there's been a lot of guys that have ejected a tenth of a second too late, and I'd rather you just crash an airplane.
So there's a couple things I need to learn. One is not to read the comments, but I do anyway. But some stuff I've seen in the comments, right? Because I've done 2 videos in the last month of Marine things that have happened. And if you read the comments, you kind of get a feel for the public and the ignorance of the public. But then you get a feel for, if you put yourself in the shoes of a reactionary leader, I'm not saying it's the commandant, I'm just saying in general. If you put yourself in the shoes of somebody who is swayed by the public, you can kind of see how some of these things start to happen. Because I've read the comments, both the Marine and the Marine Austin event, and with the NetJets, and then this thing, and the pitchforks come out almost immediately. And it's interesting because the pitchforks will come out not from a place of knowledge, but a place of anger and emotion and ignorance. For example, one such comment, and I think this is I hate that we do this of the dead, because like you said, right, we'll have somebody eject too late. And what's the first narrative that always comes out? Well, he was doing it to avoid the school. He was doing it to avoid this. He was riding it in because he didn't want that. I hate to tell you that, but that is nonsense. We are not trained to worry about what's on the ground when you make that ejection decision. Now, do you? Maybe. But what is worse, losing a jet that's uncontrollable into a school, or losing a jet plus a pilot that's uncontrollable in the school? Because it's going to happen one where, like, the outcome has already been determined. Now it's like, are we saving one less life? That's all it boils down to. That's what that ejection seat gives you. And so the public perception of this, when this happens, is, and I saw one of these comments like, well, what if that, he ejected over a populated area? What if it had crashed in a school? And I was like, well, it didn't. Well, what if it had? Okay. Well, he's a coward because he used his ejection seat with a flyable aircraft. And it's like, okay, well, how much time do you have in ejection seats? 0. So where is this basis of knowledge from which you were speaking? And then so you back that up to somebody in leadership that is swayed by public opinion. And what is the optic? It's always the optic, right? How does this look? So you back it up to this scenario where the report comes out and it says the pilot screwed up. And they look at it and go, well, I've got this report now that we just lost $110 million aircraft. Pilot screwed up and we couldn't find the damn thing for 12 hours or whatever it was. We gotta, I want some butts. I've had it, you know, I've got to show that I'm doing something. And that is where we, I hope, need to grow a spine and tell people that they are stupid. Like you have to tell them, like, look, no. Like same thing with the Marine thing in Austin, right? I did that video. You and I had different opinions, right? Because I did the video and I said, everybody's wrong. All three of them. I said the Marine guys were wrong. The controllers were wrong. And the NetJet guy was wrong too. It's varying degrees of wrong. But the public does not understand nuance. All they see is the last thing you said. And the last thing I said was the NetJet guy was a douchebag for saying that on the radio. And they go, well, you're putting all the fault on him. Like, no, rewind 10 seconds and you'll see where I put the fault on everybody. Well, you can't do that. Well, absolutely you can, because we live in a world where it is not like multiple things can be true at once. And the overwhelming comment to that video was that those Marine fighter pilots need to have their wings pulled, or in one case, the guy said to have their certificates pulled, which is nonsense because they don't have certificates, but have their wings pulled and never fly again. And that, dude, that's the knee jerk reaction, right? That's the knee jerk where it's like, mind you, no metal was bent, no paint was swapped. Nobody except some hurt feelings. Nothing happened out of that. And the only reason it came to light was because a video came out over a year later. But the public brings out the pitchforks and they want wings. And I asked one of them, I said, are you telling me that they get one mistake in their entire careers? Because you want to pull their wings. They're never going to get it back once you pull it. So,
well, dude, you bring up a lot of good points. I mean, you know, with the F-35 ejection and then, you know, it going missing, and then the guys coming in there in Texas, aviation, every incident, whether it's good or bad, it's always the Swiss cheese model, right? There's always like a plethora of contributing factors that relate to whatever the outcome is, good or bad, right? So, you know, if you look at the Marine pilot who punched out because, you know, not only was his system displays going wacky and crazy, but there was weather. And guess what? I'm not an F-35 guy, but in an article I read, the procedure, if the aircraft is out of control, is below 6,000 feet, is you eject. And he perceived he's out of control
flight. That's OCF. That's every fighter.
Yeah, but I mean, he perceived that the airplane wasn't responding to the control inputs he was putting in. So, I mean, what I'm getting at is not only is aviation a Swiss cheese model, but when you're making decisions and handling a scenario, there's multiple inputs, you know, that you are taking in to make those decisions. And, you know, garbage in, garbage out, right? I mean, obviously his F-35 was flying just fine in the weather, but the information he was receiving wasn't telling him that, right? So, you know, same thing with the guys coming in there in Texas. You know, they asked for unrestricted altitude and airspeed, and the tower gave it to them. I mean, to me, that's pretty clear, right? And then the tower guy said, well, I thought you guys were just going to descend in the break. It's like, well, that's not what, you know what? So I guess long and short is it's very dynamic, and you can't just sit there and be like, it's 1000% this.
Yeah, I think intent plays a big role in that. Like that's where I think people lose the nuance is, you know, you go to the Marine thing in Austin, and if the intent had been to thump the NetJet guys, and you could say that's what they intended to do, then 100%, they have bad judgment. Don't fly an airplane again. You're out. Yep. But if the intent was a miscommunication and they believed what they were doing was safe, because remember, my version of safe and your version of safe are totally different things.
Yep.
And some of it is gray area. It's not defined. The FAA and the military have varying definitions of what safety is. Now,
Yep.
am I defending them? No, because I believe what they did was wrong. I do. But do I think that they need to be removed and never fly again? Absolutely not. You talk to them and say, hey, dude, don't do that. Let's not shine our asses in the pattern. Let's not save our best for coming back to the field. We're not a one mistake military, but it was a mistake from the F-35 guy. I mean, dude, it's just like anytime there's an officer involved shooting, right? We don't judge these things with perfect 2020 hindsight vision. Like, you don't. That's the legal standard, is what information did he have at the time that he made that decision? Because it could be lethal force. I mean, you could have ejected that thing and plowed into a school. So we have to look at what that aviator had at the time of the mishap. And the information he had was he had just done a configuration change. He'd gone from Stovall mode, which I think you and I both agree that Stovall mode is a waste in general, but to conventional mode, which, you get that the visual illusion, spatial disorientation, you get all that because now, the jet is cleaning up, reconfiguring. So you're going to have your inner ear stuff going against you. He had 3 times the display had failed and given him master cautions and warnings saying that the flight controls were bad, the air data computer was bad, all these different cascading things. The jet was telling him this jet is not right. The airplane was telling him. Now, if he had gone to the standby, would he have saved the aircraft? Probably. But that assumes that he believed that the standby wasn't one of a multitude of things that were going wrong, because everything else in that airplane, he could have been inverted and not known it. So to judge him based off of perfect 2020 hindsight, yeah, the outcome was the jet kept flying, but he didn't know that. So we got some comments here. Kate says, just sending in love and appreciation to you two, 3 federal veterans. Your guest was magnificent. Here we go. From my understanding, Casey says, it was the deputy commandant for aviation who relieved the pilot of his command. The DCA is a pilot. So it was a pilot that did that.
Yeah, dude, I don't know, man. I have a hard time with yeah. I think it's bullshit. I mean, 100%.
I don't know, but Garrett says, I've been hearing this is not the first incident with this colonel. Also, General Smith is a highly decorated 0302 after meeting him. I respect his decisions. If it was not his first, I'm going to take this down while we talk about it. If it wasn't his first incident, why'd they give him command?
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean,
do you remember? I don't know. Just thinking about it. Do you remember a couple years ago, VMFA 232, Taj Serene? Remember he took off in England?
Yeah,
he took
that's
off
exactly
in
what
England.
I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, his instrumentation failed in the Hornet and he stayed with it and he died.
And that is, it's actually what I was talking about, because people said he stayed with it to avoid whatever was on the ground. And that just wasn't the case. They looked at that and they said, there's no evidence that suggests that. He just was spatial deed, came out of the weather and could not get out in time.
I mean, the Hornet's got standby instrumentation too, it's just a case of like, what do you believe? What do you trust? Right. I mean, in his mind, I'm sure he thought he could handle it. Right. That's why he stayed with it. But I just come full circle back to eject early, eject often. They're building new airplanes every day, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, man. I had to give the American flag to a crying family before they put their kid in a 6-foot dirt hole because they didn't eject a half a second sooner. So like I might be a little bit biased towards eject early, eject often, seeing it firsthand and having to go through that whole experience. But in my mind, an ejection seat aircraft, like there's no question that. From reading the things that he was dealing with at low altitude in a fast jet, I'm like, dude, 100%. I mean, hey, if you messed up, hey, let's learn from this. Guess what? Lockheed, let's fix whatever it was that caused all these issues. And hey, if there's some additional training we need to do, like, hey, if this happens, focus on this. It's never wrong. Fine. But this is what happens, man, when you get a brand new airplane out to the fleet, right? I mean, they put it through testing, but you can't test real life. So, and you know, the F-16 was no different, right? The Hornet was no different, right? The F-16 and the Hornet were, you know, our NATOPS and the -1 is written in blood, right? Because we learn from these things. So, you know, you like to think that some of those lessons, the guy or gal didn't die, right? So, I mean, to me, it's like, I don't.
And you also have to remember, you know, I put up a picture of the cockpit in that video, and think about it. You're going from primary, the helmet, which is like using the HUD, to the secondary, which is the big display.
Yeah.
And now you've got to go find the standby at the bottom between your legs.
Yeah, dude.
And transition. But every time you did that, the thing came back and worked and gave you more cautions that told you it wasn't working. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't even know. Like if you're looking at the little peanut and then all of a sudden the displays come back in your helmet, I mean, that's got to be confusing as well. I would like to think that, you know, I have my issues with obviously we've talked about leadership stuff, but I would like to think there was something else that the public's not privy to, because that's not the message you want to send to aviators in the Marine Corps. That's my own opinion, of course.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of things are going to change. John says military AIB and discipline should follow Graham versus Connor. Yeah, it's the reasonableness, and that's what I was just talking about. You know, you're not looking at it through perfect 2020 vision. You know, with hindsight, you have to look at it as what information did they have at the time that they did this, because it could be flawed. You could be dealing with bad information. You know, I mean, perception is your reality, and I hate saying that, but that sometimes is true.
Dude, there's been a ton of airliner crashes, right? Where, you know, something goes wrong with the displays, and there's two pilots there, you know, and they both get. I mean, it happens, right? These are, you don't. And if you can't see, if you're IMC, you're very susceptible to becoming disorientated, man. It's no secret. There's a whole rating dedicated to it, right? Your instrument rating. So I don't know. Like I said, got to be something else. And if there isn't, boy, that's foul.
Yeah. Wow. Anyway, Gonky, what else is going on, man?
Oh, not a whole lot, man. I'm just trying to get back on top of things, man. I'm finishing my second kids book. Hopefully it'll be out here in a couple of days. But yeah, other than that,
did we ever talk about it being in the San Diego Museum?
Yeah, I got a cool Wombat actually sent me a picture of one of my Navy coloring book being sold in the Midway at the museum there, which I thought was awesome. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I got to go to San Antonio tomorrow for.
Yeah. Hey, so what are you doing in San Antonio?
I don't know if I'm even allowed to talk about it yet. I don't know. I kind of don't want to, because that means I have to shave. And as soon as the beard goes, so goeth my freedom.
Yeah. Well, let's yeah.
We got to say hi to our new followers that are following us from a certain airline that we were presented in training today.
Yeah, well, I'm always absolutely floored at who watches our show, man. It's like every day somebody's sending me a screenshot of something, and it's like, oh, we gotta tighten it up, man.
We do. We gotta watch what we say, because people are watching as we speak. But I mean, dude, some of these interviews, you know, if we keep going, we just don't have to talk.
Yeah,
let them
dude,
talk.
I don't know. I'm not sure. You set the bar pretty high getting Jared on the show. That was pretty awesome. That's amazing, dude. I just like, seriously, he only has like 570 subscribers on his YouTube channel, but he has some amazing videos on there. Like
Yeah.
his he doesn't make his videos on a laptop like maybe I do. He's got quite the it's pretty awesome. That MiG-29 video of him flying around Montana is absolutely beautiful.
Dude, the good news is neither of us fell off the stream, because that was like my number one concern, was that one of us would end up not participating. Yeah. And I held my tongue, did not ask him why he's not the Batman. Because, dude, if you're going to be a billionaire, you should probably be the Batman.
Dude, he might be. You never know, man. Never know. Yeah.
I don't know. I saw today that the studio is selling the Batmobile tumbler from the Dark Knight movies for $3 million a copy. And you can buy one if you're.
How many do they have?
They're just building it. Here you go. You want one? Here's $3 million. Yeah.
Oh,
It's not street legal.
nah. Well, yeah, no. Well, yeah, dude. I don't. I mean, can you drive it though? Like, is it a drivable?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it's
there's a more of a
off-road
prop,
use.
or
Yeah, you
is
can
it?
drive it, dude. That's the thing. I mean, listen, there's probably a reason I am not a billionaire, other than the fact that I have no marketable skills. But
Me too.
if I were, I would have bought so much stupid junk. Like, I would have an Airwolf. I would have a tank. I
Dude,
would
he has
have
a
a
MiG-29.
Batmobile.
He has an Air Force, dude.
Yeah, but I would have like the Ecto 1. Like, I would have everything from every movie that I ever liked.
Dude, do you know how much more validated I feel about that one mission we did when Jared Isaacman himself said the 159 has a straight wing and it's so slow? like I don't know if our listener, if our like,
No, all right, well, let's tell that story since we love to tell stories. We were out, Gonky, you got like crapped on hardcore. for
yeah,
this, too.
dude, because it
So-
was the Raptor Squadron Commander.
Yeah, and one of the IPs.
They were doing a check, just
Yeah.
two of them.
Yeah, and
I was the red air
Gonky-
lead.
Gonky was the red lead. I was the wingman, which you know is a horrible idea, having us together. There's a reason in the Navy we weren't allowed to fly together.
Like stepbrothers out there.
Yeah. So Gonky's big plan is to have the L-159s, because he asked him, he goes, "Hey, can you guys get up in the higher altitudes?" Like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, we can do that. You know,
Yeah,
and Gonky's like, sure, no problem. So he puts us out front and sticks those guys in the bozosphere, and they're doing like 180 knots or something, like 0.35 Mach. They're flying like C-130 speeds back there. So the picture
disrespect.
gets spread out because
Oh,
we're in
yeah.
our 38s going, we're going to fly our 400 knots, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I go in unobserved and I kill the guy.
Yeah.
I get
Squadron
the
commander.
No, I got
Right?
the dude that was on the check ride.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I got it was his check ride and I killed
That's
it.
right. That's right.
And dude, they were so mad.
Yeah, he was mad. Then the debrief, they're like, "Oh my God." I'm like, dude, they didn't tell me they can't.
Gonky got like pulled aside by like all the other
Yeah.
Raptor bros. Like, hey, Gonky, why are you screwing him over like that?
I'm like, oh, dude, I asked the 159 guys, and they're like, oh yeah, we can. Dude. Okay, we'll push it this time.
Remember that-
You'll be there. Oh yeah.
Remember that thing we were just talking about? But be careful who's listening. Like all these foreign, like China's like a 159. Okay, how
Very
many of those do we
slow.
have to buy? Is only thing
Yeah.
can defeat Raptor is
Mover in a T-38 Alpha.
Uber and a T-38 and L-159. Got it. Okay, that's how you get your kill.
I just felt validated, dude, when he said that. I was like, yeah. See,
Yeah.
it's not me, man.
Yeah.
And then his little joke, his little helicopter joke, I thought was funny too. I'm like, you know what? Snort must have really rubbed off on him,
so to speak.
so to speak. Yeah.
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 We didn't even ask him about that. We should ask him some more about Snort.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just from the research I did, I mean, they did obviously a lot of the red air stuff, and he's probably one of the guys that helped him learn how to fly, you know, tactically. I mean, it sounds like he did BFM. I think he went through like an upgrade syllabus, like in the T-38B course.
No, dude. See, that's the way
All
to do
28
it.
rides.
The way to do it is to buy your own private Air Force and then hire instructors. And then when they put you through, they're like, "Sir, you got anything for me?" you know.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
boss, you got anything for me? There's no like, it's as
Yeah.
long as you want. You know, if you want the full meal deal, you get it. If you want the short one, you get that too. But
See that's pretty Navy standard, you know. I mean,
I don't know about that.
It's like, sir, what would you like to see here today? Cool, yeah, excellent job. Just never do that one thing again. We good? All right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I know Stroker Gustafson from the Makos. I met him there. And so when I hear that name, I'm like, wow, Stroker went on and did that. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then when I was writing for Fighter Sweep, Kid had reached out because he wanted us to do something about Draken. And I never could get that corner squared. But if I'd have gotten in with these people back then, I'd be in space, Gonky.
Dude, it's such a small world.
That's true. That's true. I am an unlikable candidate. So they would have just not liked me back then.
Well, last week I did aircrew interviews, and
Mike, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, with Mike, right? And
Mike
it's
Tyson?
such a small no. But it's such a small world. His parents live in, not only do his parents live in Malaysia, they live in the same apartment complex that I lived in when I was in Malaysia. So like, you know, it's just like, it's so crazy, man. It's like everything's 2 degrees off, right? Wild.
Yeah. It's always scary to me when I go to like the training center or any place public of what because I don't know if I need to be on my guard, because if I read the YouTube comments, everybody's mad at Mover all the time. So
just don't go international.
People approach me in public, I'm like, oh, is this going to be one of the ones that like the metric system a lot?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yes. That's why when I was asking Rook about speed, I was like, kilometers per hour? 25,000 kilometers.
Yeah, we're dumb people, Gonky.
I don't. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, you want to talk mental health?
Yeah, man, we can. Of course. Do we have anything from the kids at home?
Well, we're going to do the one about be your best self. And the reason for that. So here's my segue. Here's my intro.
Okay.
A year ago was probably, I'm not going to call it rock bottom because I feel like that's like whistling past the graveyard there, but it was a low point. You know, I just lost both dogs, and you know, at the time I thought my military career was at an end very early before even getting a retirement. I had lost every fight that I had been through in the last 2 years, or at least I thought. And, you know, things just looked kind of gloomy. And on top of that, Luna was a big girl, and I had let that happen. I didn't, you know, I parted with the boys. The cancer was eating at Sniper, and Kaiser wasn't eating as much, and Luna was sneaking their food. So I didn't know. I thought they were eating, but it's not. So this is what Luna looked like May of last year. She was over 60, 65-ish pounds. Wow. 63, 64 pounds. And that is a lot of weight on that little girl.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it, dude. She looks like she's just struggling, just sitting there. Today, that's from last weekend, but today we went to the vet and they're all happy about it because she's 43 pounds. And dude, it was a struggle, right? I mean, it took a full year to get that point. And that's a full, you know, that's a third of her body weight that she lost. I mean, she lost, you know, a small dog in weight. Now, how does that go to mental health? In order to be your best self, and in order to find, you know, in Luna's case, you know, your hot girl summer, it's a process. You know, finding the light at the end of the tunnel and going from unhealthy and obese to everybody, you know, is proud of you, which I'm very proud of her. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And if you've you're trying to improve yourself, the results are not going to be overnight. The results are not going to happen instant, and next thing you know, you snap your fingers. But over time, if you have the right support network, which obviously she did because I enforced it, which, she didn't like too much, and you have the right mentality, which she's happy about everything, a year you can look back and go, I'm better than I was a year prior. And I think that lesson is important because it shows that while we may feel like something is impossible, at some point you may look back and realize that you were full of it and you actually got there because you worked at it. You worked a little bit, one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, one moment at a time. Like my dad used to say, when my mom died, I was like, how do we get through this? He goes, one day at a time. And you will find that if you just take small pieces and go day by day, minute by minute, second by second, if you have to, you can achieve whatever it is that you're trying to achieve in the end. And even me, I'm going to San Antonio tomorrow for something that if you'd have told me a year ago that I was going to go do, I would have been like, what? I'm about to be kicked out of the military. How are you? What now? And it's just because you just keep moving one foot in front of the other. You keep aiming towards your goals. And eventually a year later or a month later or 6 years later or whatever, you'll be able to look back and go, I am better today than I was yesterday. And I think that is the message here. So surround yourself with people that encourage you, that don't laugh at you, that don't make you feel bad about your goals, that help you, that encourage you. You're only as good as the 5 people you hang around with. So if you've got 5 people that are negative and trying to bring you down, find 5 other people because those are not the right people. You want people that'll support you and that when you bring up your goals, dreams, wishes, aspirations, they go, hell yeah, how do we make this happen? And that is the way forward. 988, if you need to talk to somebody, 911, if you feel like you're taking a permanent action for a temporary problem, chaplains, military one source, all good resources. Gonky, what do you got?
Being the best version of yourself. Yeah, that's you made a lot of good points, man. Don't eat the whole elephant at one time, right? Small bites. Just to kind of add what you said, it's have a plan and then execute your plan. I always try to do something every day to what I call moving the needle, right? So if you're working towards a goal or a plan, in Luna's case, losing some weight, or if you have some if you're working towards becoming a military pilot or in business, a lot of your day can be taken by just busy work that doesn't really matter. But I always, and I didn't come up with this. I've read many books on basically trying to be a high performer, and it's doing something meaningful that day to get you, like you said, mover, one step closer to where you want to go. So that means you got to have in your head, a vision of where you're going, right? And constantly working towards that. And if you keep doing that over time, will you get there? Whatever the goal is, I don't know, but for sure you're going to be a lot closer than if you never did anything at all. Most of the time, things that take hard work and time to build or achieve those things are worth doing. So I like what you said, mover. Surround yourself with good people. And that's in the Bible, and I strongly believe that. But yeah, I also think trying to be the best version of yourself can also help keep you grounded and less affected by the chaos of the world going around you, because I think a lot of times, and I think, with, your chaotic last year that we had, especially, I think the people that were out to hurt you and get you, I think they were just flailing in their own, in their own world, but I've known you for a while now, and you have a vision of where you would like to be and where you're going. And I think, people who have that, they don't let the small things in life, or even maybe perceived bigger things in life, affect them as badly as people who just kind of wake up and let the day happen to them. You know what I'm saying? So I just think I think always striving to be the best version of yourself is just a good way to live regardless. But I don't know. Doug, what do you got, man?
I think the points I want to highlight out of what you both said are surrounding yourself with good people is always useful. Having a plan. But something that I noticed with a friend that I'm kind of out of touch with now, and he's been a big influence in my life, is he always pays attention. And I don't just mean like, if you're talking to him, he's going to remember what you said, but he notices things when they're good. Like, we're doing something that we've done 100 times, and he'll look around and say, this is really excellent right now. This is really awesome. This is good. We need to remember this, even if we're just sitting on the porch. And that kind of mindfulness and joyfulness in day-to-day life, along with a lot of the things that you guys said, having a routine, having benchmarks, having a plan, but you have to pay attention. You have to notice it. Like, I'm working my plan and I'm noticing that it's helping. And I've been doing that some myself lately, just trying to get back into some good habits. And, like the mover said, it's a lot of work. It doesn't happen all at once, but you have to notice it. That's what I got.
I think the other piece I would bring into it too is that, what Doug's saying about the mindfulness, that applies to everything. When you're going through some kind of anxiety or some kind of, something has interrupted your calm and you're in a situation where you don't want to be there, that's where that being present in the moment and one step at a time, 1 foot at a time in front of the other, all that stuff starts to play in, because a lot of when you go through the anxious time and the fight or flight takes over, you get that cortisol spike and you get all these bad things. Your mind is racing because it's creating the scenario that's catastrophic. The only way to slow that down is to be present in the moment on what you're doing. And, one of the things they taught us when we were flying low levels in the F-16, near rocks, far rocks, check lead, check six. And you would say it to yourself over and over and over, because near rocks, what is going to kill me right now? What is that rock that's in front of me? Far rocks, what's the one right after that? Check lead, make sure your buddy's okay, because taking care of somebody else will help you, because you're not focused on your own problems. And then at the very end, check six, because you always have to take care of yourself. You always have to check over your shoulder just to make sure that there's no threats back there. But it's important that you take care of others. And when you do that in life, things will start to happen, because you're always moving forward. Near rocks, far rocks, check lead, check six. Near rocks, far rocks, check lead, check six. And that'll get you out of whatever spiral that you might be in. So, anyway, we got some stuff from the audience. I'll get to the mental health stuff first and then go backwards. Thomas says, I've used the nearest alligator to the boat mentality at work to solve multiple issues at work. Thank you for your service. Stay safe. There you go. Corvette World Rob says, there are always ways to move forward, ways you may not expect or could have imagined in some cases. Bottom line, never give up. Never give up. Never surrender. Pneumatic Elephant says, thanks, folks. Needed it badly. I'm going through a lot. If I may, shout out to Roach, who is my role model and wealth of support. Thanks, Chief. Hell yeah.
Nice.
And then Colin says, struggling with weight right now. I'd lost a bunch of weight during COVID, but now the anxiety and depression have ramped up again and weight has slowly returned. Still a work in progress. It's not an overnight deal. You just have to, the habits, you put the habits in place and eventually it'll take care of itself.
Yep.
And then John says, when you stop chasing the wrong things, you give the right things a chance to catch you. Mike Tyson. Lolly Daskell. And that is it for the Mental Health Minute. We've got some other stuff from the audience. Crazy Pete says, have you guys read Red Storm Rising yet? If not, why not? Gonky cannot read.
I can't read.
It's a 31-hour free audiobook on YouTube. The problem is,
really?
It really is. I can only stay awake through about 40 minutes at a time. So it's going to take me 2 months. But I'm trying.
Oh, I love it. I love it, dude. That's awesome. I'm the same way.
Bob says, now you got a connection with Rook. Do we though?
He knows our face. Maybe.
I don't think he's that impressed with our act, Gonky.
Probably not, dude. He's an astronaut. We're just
Yeah.
we're just atmospheric pilots.
Yeah,
dude.
we're not at his level.
No.
But yeah. And then Bluey's mom, Chili, says, Margot had her baby. Congrats, Uncle Mover.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, Luna was in here during the interview, but I don't know where she's probably already gone to bed.
Yeah.
And Garrett says, we are all about the image and the core. It's a message. Hate to tell you that.
Yeah.
It's the entire DOD.
Yeah. Isn't Garrett OCS?
No, he's
Isn't he?
college. He did the OCS and then went to college. Now he's got to do TBS.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah. And John says, happy Veterans Day to you both. Buy a cold one on me. I hope you enjoy San Antonio.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Positive attitude.
One foot in front of the other.
That's right.
I got to go tomorrow. And then next week, Luna and I are driving up to Dallas for some training. So I'll be in a hotel for Monday's show.
Okay.
Actually, no. Oh yeah, Monday. Yeah, Monday is the day that it is. Yeah, okay. No, this Monday is. We're good. So I'll be in the hotel, and then the following week's Thanksgiving.
That's right. And then, are we still on at the end of the month for?
I don't know. I got our shirts though.
Yeah, we're doing the
Check it out.
chips. Hopefully, my knee doesn't get any worse.
Wow,
I love it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Did you get him a size small? Because the guys on the show
all they had was large. Like this is the only size Vistaprint could make.
Well, yeah, that's awesome.
So,
hey, you know what? We'll just roll with what we got, man.
Might have to take some clothespins or whatever and kind of pin them up.
Hey, and dude, so Tim, who does these sweet mugs, sent me a couple samples here. Mover Gonky Show mugs. So I think we're gonna revamp the old store here in January and put some of these bad boys on there.
Yeah, this one's getting kind of worn out.
Yeah, dude, these are nice, man.
Does it have your call sign? Does it say Gonky on it?
No, it doesn't. But I mean,
take a Sharpie.
I'm gonna get a Sharpie. Yeah. Budget constraints. I had to use a marker. So
yeah, here
I use a dry erase. I use a dry erase. So when you use it, you can put mover on it.
We have one we share. It's like communion.
It's like the helmet, right?
Oh, the mask that time. It smelled like Vienna sausage. I can't believe they made me do that, dude. I still can't believe that.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, not in the Air Force.
Yeah,
they would never make you share masks in the Air Force.
Yeah, dude, or helmets. Yeah.
No, they just go buy you a new one.
I know they would because it's the Air Force.
Yeah.
That's why they don't have money for other things.
Yeah. And then Thomas says, focus on what you have, not about what you don't have.
Yep. Good.
And that is the end of our show. I have to remember to remove that rocket launch thing from the next intro, or else we're going to have it forever.
Okay.
It's always going to have a rocket launch from here on out.
Yeah. Yeah, man. No, good show. I cannot believe that we actually had a conversation with an astronaut, Jared Isaacman. Wild, dude. Fascinating.
I forgot to ask him if he flew model airplanes. That's my favorite astronaut question.
I wanted to ask him if he still did DCS.
There was chat in the chat about you need to challenge him F-16, F-18, V1, V MiG-29.
Dude, whatever happened to you doing DCS?
I gotta get my Mike's been traveling all over the place, man. I don't know how to do DCS without him turning the machine on.
I just did a video that's coming out Friday about the new F-16 flight model, and it is improved.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
You did a good job with that.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't mind it actually, but yeah, I'll reach out to Mike again. he was like I said, he was out west doing some car stuff or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well,
Yeah.
good night.
Thank you for joining us.
We love you.
Night, people.
Please like, share, and subscribe, right, Gonky? That's the thing.
That's right, man. We'll be back next week, hopefully.
Yeah. We'll see. All right.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
We'll see you guys. Have a good night.